I'm walking down the street on clouds instead of the concrete. I'm dancing through. Everything's about to come my way. Nothing can ruin my day. No matter what anyone does or say, I smile at you.
I was digging through some of my old videos looking for some dinner ideas, and I stumbled across the cheeseburger soup, which we really, really enjoyed. And I'm like, well, I'm going to make that again. So then I was, still digging to see what else there was. And then I came across my French bread recipe, which was super good and really easy too. So we're going to do that because we like that one. And then the caramel corn popped up. So I'm going to make the caramel corn as well. So I thought, well, since we liked them so much and they're easy to do, I'm going to make a video for you guys with all three of those in there. So here is the recipes for the best cheeseburger soup, the best French bread, and the best caramel corn. I hope you enjoy. Starting off with the cheeseburger soup, you're going to want to grab your Instant Pot and put it on saute mode. And once you think that your Instant Pot has come up to temperature, you're going to want to throw in your butter. I'm using coconut oil here, but the recipe is 4 tablespoons of butter. You can use what you want. Coconut oil work just fine. Once the coconut oil is melted, you're going to throw in your carrots, celery, and onions. And you're going to cook those until they're, starting to soften a little, stirring occasionally just so they don't burn on the bottom. Once your veggies are nice and soft, you're going to want to throw in your 1 pound of ground beef and break that up. Once your ground beef is browned, you are going to add your spices. So you're going to do Italian seasoning, oregano, salt, and pepper. And then 4 cups of your chicken broth. We like to use bone broth in our recipes. It has a little bit more flavor and it's a little bit better for you, but you use what you want to use. Then I have the 3 large russet potatoes diced up. And we're going to get those stirred around just so you know that they're kind of covered by the liquid there. Put the lid on the Instant Pot. Set it on high pressure for 4 minutes. It's a really quick recipe. And I will have the recipe all written out in the description box down below also for you. So you don't have to worry about writing it down. Once the Instant Pot is done cooking, you're going to let it naturally release for 10 minutes. And then you're going to let whatever residual steam is left out. And then, of course, open the lid. It looks tasty already, and it smells phenomenal. I'm adding 4 cups of sharp cheddar cheese. Normally I grate it, but I didn't have a grater at this particular time because I was making this in a motel room. But you're going to grate your cheese and then give it a stir. And once your cheese is nice and melted, which I think yours will melt a little bit better than this, you're going to add in your 1.5 cups of whole milk. I used 2% and it worked just fine. I'm going to take a couple of spoonfuls of the broth because I'm going to mix it in with 2 tablespoons of cornstarch to make a little cornstarch slurry to thicken. And I'm going to throw that in there and give it a good stir. And then it is ready to serve. You can stir in some sour cream if you like sour cream. My husband doesn't, so we didn't do that. But here is the finished product. Up next on the list is the tasty, easy French bread. I previously recorded this video and I edited it down so I could throw it into this video. So please ignore the fact that my lips are moving differently than the words coming out of my mouth right now. But we're going to add 2.25 cups of warm water, about 110 degrees, into a stand mixer. I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon of dry active yeast. You can use the rapid or the regular yeast, and then 2 tablespoons of sugar. We're going to give that a little mix to get everything combined, and then we're going to let it sit until it gets nice and foamy. Once it's foamy, we're going to add a pinch of salt, about 1/4 teaspoon, and then 2 tablespoons of a neutral oil. And then this is where you're going to add your first 3 cups of flour. The recipe calls for a total of 5.5 to 6 cups, but you're going to start with 3 cups at this point. And once the 3 cups are in the mixer with your dough hook on, you're going to turn the mixer on and let everything get combined. Now, I haven't tried this, not using a mixer, so I don't know how that would come out. I'm sure it would just be lots and lots of, stirring by hand and then extra kneading that the mixer does for you. Now, once everything is combined, the dough will still be very, very sticky at this point. You're going to add in the 2.5 to 3 cups of flour, depending on how it comes out. You're supposed to have a sturdy but soft dough. So that's what you're looking for. You want it to be nice and soft, but not falling apart and not gooey and whatever. So it just depends on what you got going, how much flour you need to add. You can use all-purpose flour or bread flour. I'm using all-purpose flour. And then we're going to check the dough. I'm going to pull it off of the dough hook and then kind of scrape down the side. Some of the flour was still on the bottom. But once it pulls clean from the sides and your dough feels, sturdy but soft, you're going to remove the dough from the mixing bowl and put it in a greased bowl, cover with a towel, and let rise until it is doubled in size. And then you're going to remove it to a greased surface. I'm just using a greased baking sheet here for easy cleanup. I actually have 2 of them. So you're going to take all your dough out. It shouldn't be too terribly sticky at this point. You'll be able to work with it, not have to flour the surface. But you're going to cut that into 2 equal pieces because you're going to make 2 loaves out of this recipe. And you're going to flatten until it's about a 9 by 13 inch rectangle. This does take some time because the dough is pretty elastic, but which is good because that makes a good bread. So just take your time with this and get it flattened out. Once you have it in that 9 by 13 inch rectangle, you are going to roll it up. So roll it up like you're doing some cinnamon rolls. And then you're going to pinch the seam so everything kind of stays together, and you're going to want to tuck those ends in to make a nice, rounded loaf at the end. You're going to tuck those in nicely, make sure they're all pinched together, and then put it aside and do the exact same thing with your other piece of dough. Once you have them done, you're going to put them on the same baking sheet, and then you're going to cover them with a towel and let them rise again. Just depends on your kitchen how long it takes. Now, once they've doubled in size, like these have here, you're going to want to cut the slits in the top. I have a nice serrated knife here, so that works really well. But you want to cut slits in each of the pieces of dough, and you're going to bake these at 375 until they're golden brown. Again, the recipe will be down below in the description box, so you do not have to worry about trying to write this down. Once you pull them out of the oven and they're still nice and hot, you're going to brush them with a couple of tablespoons of melted butter. We like the Kerrygold butter, but you use whatever butter you want to do, and you can skip this step if you want to. It's not necessary, but it certainly makes them taste great. But that's the easy French bread for you. Last but certainly not least, we have the caramel corn. And so how we make our popcorn around here is in a paper bag. And so I don't know too many people know this trick, or have you heard about this trick, or you think it's kind of weird. But you just take like a lunch bag, a paper lunch bag, and you're going to throw some popcorn in there. You can measure, you can do 1/3 of a cup, 1/2 a cup. You don't want to go crazy. A cup's not going to fit in there. But you just dump some in there. Just like you're doing microwaved popcorn, already in the package, you're going to seal up the top And you're going to lay it on its side in the microwave. And I'm going to start with 4 minutes just so it's plenty of time. But you're going to want to listen to it. And once the popping slows down to, a couple of seconds between the pops, you're going to want to take it out because you do not want it to burn. You need 10 cups of popcorn, of popped popcorn for this recipe. So I'm going to do this in several batches until I have my 10 cups of popcorn. But this comes out great. Throw it in a bowl. While it's warm, you're going to give it a little salt. You're going to salt the popcorn. And continue the process until you have 10 cups of the popped popcorn. And then in a saucepan, you are going to melt 1 cup of sweet cream salted butter. And once the butter's melted, you're going to throw in 1 cup of packed light brown sugar. And you're going to get that melted. You're going to want to stir it constantly while it is melting. And once it's melted, again, over medium heat, we're doing all this over medium heat. You are going to stir constantly until this comes to a boil. It's going to take it a little while for it to come to a boil. So you're just going to have to be patient. This recipe doesn't call for corn syrup because I don't keep that in the house. So this is kind of the trade-off for having, better ingredients. So you can use good butter, you can use good brown sugar, you can use good vanilla, you can use all the good stuff. So once it is boiling, you are going to add in your vanilla at the 4-minute mark. So once it comes to a boil, you're going to leave it alone, let it boil for 5 minutes total. But 4 minutes in, you're going to add the vanilla, give it a quick stir. And then at the 5-minute mark, you're going to throw in your 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. And you're going to give this a little mix around. And it's kind of crazy what happens because it foams up. Like, this was new to me when I did this recipe for the first time. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. It's like foamy, frothy caramel, basically. So you're going to give that a stir. Remove it from the heat. And it's basically done at this point. You're going to pour it over the popcorn. You can do it in batches. You can throw it all in there at one time. I kind of do give it a little mix and then throw some more in there so everything gets combined. The bigger the bowl, the better. This is the biggest bowl I had. And I have a cookie sheet there next to me lined with parchment. You can use wax paper, foil. You might want to give it a little baking spray. But I decided to use the parchment because that is what I had. So make sure it is nice and combined, mixed well. It's not going to be like a soggy, caramel corn. You can do less popcorn if you like it that way, but this is a perfect ratio here. And you're going to dump it out onto your baking sheet and spread it as thin as possible, and you're going to let it cool and kind of dry a little bit. And that's it. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and we will see you on the next video. Don't forget to give this a thumbs up, and please hit that subscribe button. That helps me a lot.